I used to believe that I could not trust myself around trigger foods. And I had so many different trigger foods: bread, pasta, ice cream, chocolate, cookies, of course, anything sweet, cashews, dried mangoes, protein bars. I had so many different trigger foods. And the moment that I let myself eat it was the moment that I spiraled out of control. The moment that I brought cookies or sweets, ice cream in the house, I would eat them. Even if I wasn't hungry, even if I wasn't even craving it, if it was in the house, I would just be eating it. I would just finish dinner. I'd be full. I'd be satisfied. But because I knew that there was ice cream in the freezer, I would open up the freezer and I'd start having it. If I knew that I just made my favorite chocolate chip cookies and I had them, even though I wasn't hungry, I would just eat them because they were there. And I thought to myself, don't buy them. Clearly, you can't trust yourself around these foods. Clearly, it's probably better to just not even bring them in the house because you can't be trusted. I had so much evidence that I couldn't trust myself. And, I heard other people being like, I have all my kids' snacks in the house and I'll just have a little bit of their snacks and I'll be fine. Or I'll be able to have a cookie and have some tea and relax. Or I would watch these people doing day in the life videos and they would be like, okay, I'm going to have a sweet snack. And they had one date. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll eat 20 of them and then I'll have cookies and then I'll have ice cream. So I'm I can't relate to that. And I thought that there was something wrong with me because I just felt like I couldn't trust myself. And I knew that not buying trigger foods wasn't the solution because I tried that. I remember at one point, cashews were a trigger food for me. And I thought to myself, okay, if I don't buy cashews, I'm not going to binge on them because it was so mindless. They're so easy to eat. And then I would go over to my mother-in-law's house. And of course, there'd be cashews. And so what do you think I would have? A bunch of cashews. And the way that I was eating them there was the last time that I'm ever going to eat this food. And I knew that that felt so wrong. If you've ever experienced that, you're well, I don't have them at home. So I might as well eat them again, even if I'm not hungry, even if I'm full. It's I have the opportunity to eat this. If I go back home, I won't be able to eat this food. And this happened to me even on vacations. I would always, always, always overeat on vacation because I knew that at my house, I never allowed myself to bring in ice cream or chocolate because, again, I felt like I couldn't trust myself. So when I was on vacation and I could have the ice cream and the sweets, I'm of course I'm going to go to town. I'm going to eat this all because I'm going to go back home and I'm not going to be able to allow myself to eat these foods. And that is so black and white. It is so all or nothing. And I knew that that was not healthy, clearly. But again, I was but if I bring it into the house, I have no control. Even protein bars, you guys, I would buy a big case of protein bars. At the time, I don't remember what it was called, crunchy or something. I don't know. They had a chocolate chip cookie dough. Cookie dough is my favorite cookie dough ice cream, cookie dough protein bars. I love, love, love cookie dough. And I would buy a pack. I don't even know how many at this point because this was 2015, 16, 17. But I would buy a pack. And I kid you not, I would have 3 or 4 in a sitting. And I would feel so sick because they were so sweet and so filled with crap. And I would be so sick. My stomach would be killing me. And I felt torn. Okay, Lorna, if you buy these foods, you end up eating them. And then if you don't buy them, you still end up binging on them. So there's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with you. And I tried both methods. I went to the grocery store and I bought all my trigger foods. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to let myself have them because people have told me if you just let yourself have them, then you're not going to want them. I said, okay, let's go to the grocery store. And I literally went and I bought like all these cookies and sweets and bagels and cereal. And I'm like, okay, I'm allowed to eat them. Yeah, I felt even worse in my own skin. I felt even more out of control with food. So clearly, again, that was not the solution. And like I shared, I tried to not buy them, and all I could think about was when I was going to have them. I would literally plan it. Okay, on this day, I'm going to go buy them, and I'm going to come home, and I'm going to binge them all. And I couldn't even, like, get to my house. Like, I would just, like, finish it in the parking lot because of how deprived I was. So I said to myself, okay, Lorna, you're in this black or white, all or nothing mentality. What if you didn't have to choose one? What if you didn't have to choose between go all in, eat every single trigger food, and don't buy it at all? Because I'm like, for so many years of my life, I was all or nothing. And I said, what if I just tried to kind of find a happy medium? And so I said to myself, I'm going to start with one trigger food. I'm going to start with one trigger food. Not go to the grocery store, buy 5 of them and wondering why I have no control. I'm going to start with one. And something that I loved was my mom made these chocolate almond butter bars. They are so good. I love anything chocolate related. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to allow myself to have this one food I want to build trust around. And for me, the evenings at night was a massive binge time. Anytime I was alone and at night. Those were the 2 triggering times for me. And if you can relate, let me know. When do you often binge on your trigger foods? I mean, look, I would literally binge sometimes at like 7 a.m., 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the weekend. But the majority of the times it was when I was by myself and in the evening. So I said, okay, maybe it's not a good idea to just let yourself eat this slippery slope food in the evening when you normally would binge, or when you're by yourself, because that's just like a lose-lose-lose situation. Like you already binge during this time, and then you're introducing a trigger food. It's a massive slippery slope. So I said, okay, I don't normally crave these chocolate almond butter bars during the day because, during the day I'm like trying to be all healthy and like be perfect with my meals. But I said, I'm going to start bringing these chocolate almond butter bars to work with me. And if I want them, I could enjoy them during the day. And I was shitting my pants because I was like, Lorna, what's wrong with you? No. Don't even bring this food into your work. Like, no. Don't even have them. Because you're going to bring them to work. And what do you think you're going to do? Obviously, you're going to eat them. And I did. For the first little bit of time, because I had them right there, so easily accessible, I ate them. But then something started to happen. Days would go by where I would bring this chocolate almond butter bar. I would bring 2 of them, sometimes 3. And sometimes, after a while, I wouldn't actually feel like them. And it was the weirdest thing ever because I was like, but I'm allowed. Like, no, you're allowed to have them. And I just genuinely didn't want them. And sometimes I would come home and I would enjoy them. Sometimes I would come home and binge on them. But sometimes I would just come home, I would empty out my lunch bag, and I would still have the chocolate almond butter bars that I didn't eat during the day. And I was mind blown. I'm like, no, this isn't who I am. I am out of control with sweets. As soon as I have something sweet, I lose control. If it's in front of me, I'm just going to eat it. And that did happen the first few times. I want to make this so clear. The first few times that I allowed myself to eat something that was triggering, it was so scary and I would just eat it. But it got to a point where there were days where I did not even want it. And I shared on my Instagram, this happened to one of my clients with protein bars. She used to binge on protein bars. And the other day she came on a coaching call and she was like, I had a bite of a protein bar. I didn't really want it. So I took a second bite because she's like, this felt so weird. This is a binge food. And she's like, I want a sufficient meal. I don't want a protein bar. And so I implemented this with so many different foods, eating it at a time where you're less triggered, eating it at a time where you normally don't binge. Also, I had to shift my relationship with these chocolate almond butter bars. Like, I would always think, like, I'm going to gain a bunch of weight if I allow myself to have chocolate. I told myself, like, you have no control. You can't be trusted. I really needed to shift my mindset and rewire my brain to remind myself that I was safe to eat these foods. And trust is built over time. Trust is not built through never allowing yourself to eat this food. And trust is also not built by allowing yourself to eat this food once or twice or 3 times and then expecting yourself to be perfectly healed. It's going to take time. What I often see, and this is what happened to me, it's like the first few times that I had those chocolate almond butter bars, I overate. I binged. But I didn't say, see, I can't trust myself. I decided to keep trying. And because I allowed myself to have it and I shifted my perspective of this food, I no longer saw it as like a trigger food. That is what allowed me to not feel like I needed to eat it all. That's what allowed me to actually sometimes not even want that food. Your mindset plays such a big role. If you're constantly telling yourself like, oh my gosh, this food is going to make me gain weight, I shouldn't be eating this food, well, then of course you're going to overdo it, because when you feel like you're going against something that you feel like you're doing something wrong, you feel like you shouldn't be eating this food, of course you're going to want to eat it all. That was like anytime I told myself to not eat after dinner, and then I ate like one small thing after dinner, I would go balls to the wall because I'm like, well, I already messed up. So you don't have to choose between keeping them in the house or not buying them at all. What if it wasn't so black and white? What if you didn't have to go and buy donuts and like that's not it. Like, trusting yourself around sugar foods is not about eating chocolate, cookies, and cake and pastries all day, every day. Like, that's a recipe to just feel so out of control with food. And you don't also have to go down the avoidance method where you don't ever buy those foods, because you're going to want to go to a coffee shop. You're going to eventually bake one day. You're going to go to social events. You're going to go on vacation, and you want to be able to be around that food and just be neutral around it. Not feel like I need to eat it all right now, or, oh my God, I can't eat that food. It's like, do I want it? Freedom of choice, that where you are in the driver's seat and you can actually decide whether you want it or not. That is what I so badly wanted. I just wanted to feel neutral around this food, and I wanted to be around sweets and have some in moderation and then move on. And I also wanted to be around sweets sometimes and be like, honestly, I don't really feel like that. And really how I got to that point was not going down one path of either buying all the trigger foods or not buying at all. I really settled in this happy medium where I just started with one food. One food. And because I built trust around that one food, I was able to do that. After the chocolate almond butter bars, I did that with chocolate chip cookies. I did it with dried mangoes, protein bars, cashews. Like, I did it with so many other foods. So you don't have to go balls to the wall, just permission to eat all the trigger foods. No, you're going to spiral out of control. And you also don't have to live in avoidance and like restriction, because restriction is always going to lead into more binging. It's about one step at a time, one trigger food at a time, going all in with one food to prove to yourself that you can be trusted. To prove to yourself that I could see this food differently. So right now, if you see like bread as like, well, bread is bad for you and it's probably going to make me gain weight and it's going to bloat me and I shouldn't be eating it. Well, again, that's a negative relationship with it. So you have to change the way that you're even seeing that food. And then allowing yourself to actually have it at a time that is not as triggering for you is so important. Because again, if you know that you binge every single evening and then you let yourself have a trigger food in the evening, it's like, well, of course you're going to spiral out of control. Or it's like, if you know baking is triggering and then being home alone is triggering and then you bake when you're home alone, well, that's like a very slippery slope. So this process allowed me to enjoy my mom's favorite delicious, or my favorite, my mom made them, but they're the chocolate almond butter bars. Again, I use this process with so many of my other trigger foods. My clients have walked through this process, and I want to walk you through this process as well too over the next 4 weeks. So I want to help you choose one food, one trigger food. Do you hear me? Not go to the grocery store and buy all the sweets and then try to control yourself when they're in the pantry. We're starting with one food. One food that you want to build trust around, and I'm walking you through a week by week process over the next 4 weeks of how to actually trust yourself around this food. And I have it pulled up here. So the first week, you're going to choose that one trigger food that you want to make peace with. Again, of course, you probably have multiple trigger foods, but I want to help you start with one. And you're going to create a new relationship, a new association with this food. Again, this is so important. This is the mindset. If you're constantly telling yourself, I can't eat this food is bad, I shouldn't be eating it, I have no control around this food, that's going to be your reality. So the first step on week 1, you're going to choose that one food and you're going to shift your relationship, your association with that food, getting your mindset in the right headspace. And then week 2, you're going to understand when to actually allow yourself to have this trigger food, because people often ask me like, I don't know, like I was kind of craving it. I kind of wanted it, but I also knew that I wasn't hungry. So like, when do I allow myself to have it? And when should I say no? Because if I say no, I feel like I'm restricting myself. But if I just let myself have it whenever I want, well, then I'll be eating it all the time. So like, how do I actually know when to allow myself to have this food? On week 2, you're going to have so much clarity on when to say yes, allow yourself to have the food that you're wanting, and when you need to, pull on tough love to be like, hey, listen, not right now, without feeling restricted. Week 3 is all about actually building up that self-trust, how to be able to actually like keep it in the house without feeling like you need to eat it all the time. Trust yourself to have a moderate portion without spiraling out of control. And again, I'm walking you through this process of how to actually build up self-trust. And then week 4, something that actually nobody really talks about, but something happens. When you no longer feel triggered by this food, you often want to still want that food. So you're like, I don't want it anymore, but I want to want it. I had a client once and we did this process with ice cream, and she had like multiple emotional days and she wasn't turning to ice cream anymore, and she used to emotionally eat ice cream every single night. And she's like, okay, I don't want the ice cream, but like I want to want it. Like I miss the ritual. I miss when the kids would go to bed and it was just like me time. And so I'm going to help you work through this, because I know how like deeply ingrained these habits can be. And when it feels like this ritual, it feels like, but it feels so good, even though I hate it. It's like, I want to be able to still do it. And I want to share that piece with you, how to stop feeling like I want it, even though I don't want it. Like I literally don't even have a craving for it. I don't want it, but like I want it. And we're going to talk about that because, again, all these habits are so familiar. They're safe. It's so deeply ingrained into your brain. And it almost feels like you're punishing yourself if you're not eating it, even though you don't even want it. So we're going to talk about that on the last week of what happens when the food starts losing its power and suddenly you don't want it as much as you should. One of my clients actually asked this. She's like, okay, what happens when like I don't want the food anymore, but like I miss it. Like I want it. So we're going to dive into that on the last week as well too. And it's going to be incredible. And this is going to really be interactive. Like I really want to get so nitty gritty with you. You're going to choose one specific food you want to build trust around. And the best part is that when you go through this process with one food, you can implement this process with any other food there is out there. So we're starting with one food. Not 5, not 10, just one food. If you implement this process with one food, you're going to see, oh my gosh, like this is a food I swore I could not keep in the house and like I just don't really want it. / oh my gosh, I can actually bake cookies and just have a few and move on with my night without eating it all because it's fresh and the chocolates are melting. Like what? Who am I? Like what is going on? When you start to do that and experience this with one food, you can use this with all other foods as well too, which I'm really, really, really excited about. But we're going to make it so simple. We're starting with one food. So if you want to stop feeling like you have to live in this black or white, it's either like don't buy it and restrict yourself or just let yourself have it, and you feel so frustrated because you're like, I don't want to do any of that. I don't want to eat them all because it's in the house, and I don't want to restrict myself because I know that that's not the solution. And you want to be able to build a neutral relationship with these foods. You want to be able to trust yourself so that you can actually decide, do I want the cookies or do I not? Even if it's in front of you. Your husband just pulls out the cookies and you're like, do I want it? And some days you're going to be like, yeah, I do. And you enjoy it. And some days you're like, I don't really feel like it. And regardless of your decision, you're neutral. That is a healthy relationship with food around these trigger foods. Not eating them all because you can. Not avoiding them so hopefully you don't binge. That's not freedom. Freedom is the ability to be around your trigger foods and having some and then not having some days. That's a healthy relationship with food. So I'm walking you through this process. If you want to learn more about this program, it's a 4-week program. Like I said, there's step-by-step, week-by-week tools and strategies, a process to follow to help you build trust around one specific trigger food that you can repeat. It's a repeatable process that you can do with any other trigger foods. If you're interested in learning more about this program, you can message me trigger foods. Just message me the word trigger foods and I will send you more of the details. Again, it's a 4-week program. We're going to be going step by step by step so that you have a clear process to follow so that you stop feeling so anxious around these foods. You stop fearing, spiraling out of control, fearing waking. You have to really shift your relationship with them so you can be completely neutral around them and finally say to yourself, like, yeah, I can trust myself. So you're not different. You're not the exception. It doesn't matter if you think to yourself, like, I'm addicted to food. I will never, ever, ever be able to have a little bit of some chocolate, like I go balls to the wall, or I can't keep ice cream in the house. I completely understand. And you have to shift your mindset. That's why week 1, we're doing a deep dive into the mindset piece. Because if you don't have the right mindset and you're constantly telling yourself, I can't be trusted, I have no control, then you're going to keep spiraling out of control. So the mindset piece is so important. And then we'll actually go into the nitty gritty of the strategy of how to actually do this with one specific trigger food. So message me trigger foods if you want those details. We are kicking off on July 20th. July 20th, we're beginning. So message me trigger foods for all the details. I can't wait to support you. You are not broken. You are not the exception. You absolutely can build up trust. Trust is built through repetition. So you're not broken. Trust has not been lost. You can rebuild self-trust, and that is what I'm most excited for. So thank you guys so much for being here. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day.